In April 1945, the Pacific Ocean burned with war. The United States Navy had reached the shores of Okinawa, the last step before invading mainland Japan. The battle would become one of the bloodiest in history, and in the middle of that inferno sailed a destroyer named USS Laffey, the ship that would earn the title, the ship that would not die. The Laffey was a tough 2,200-ton destroyer, armed with guns, torpedoes, and a crew of 336 men. She had already seen combat in Normandy and in the Philippines and had survived where others hadn't. But nothing could prepare her crew for what was coming on the morning of April 16, 1945. At dawn, the sky over the East China Sea was clear and calm. The ocean shimmered under a pale sun. The men aboard the Laffey were tired but alert. Their mission was radar picket duty. It sounded routine, but in reality, radar picket ships were the first line of defense against kamikaze attacks, and often they were left exposed far ahead of the main fleet. The sailors used to call it sitting ducks duty. That morning, radar picked up movement, dozens of blips approaching fast from the north. Within minutes, a storm of Japanese aircraft appeared over the horizon. 30 enemy planes, 0 fighters and bomb-laden kamikazes, dived straight toward the Laffey. The first hit came like a thunderclap. A suicide plane slammed into the aft deck, detonating its bomb and sending metal fragments across the ship. A moment later, another plane struck, ripping open the side of the hull. Fire erupted everywhere. Ammunition cooked off, fuel tanks burst, and the destroyer shook from end to end. The men ran through smoke and chaos, dragging hoses, carrying wounded shipmates, fighting both fire and fear. But even as explosions tore the ship apart, the Laffey's gunners stood firm. The 20mm and 40mm cannons roared, cutting into the sky. One gunner, his face burned, refused to leave his station. He kept firing until he collapsed. Commander Frederick Beckton, the ship's captain, remained on the bridge, shouting orders through smoke and flames. When someone asked if they should abandon ship, Beckton answered with steel in his voice, "We're staying afloat. We're fighting this ship as long as she floats." More kamikazes came. 7 of them crashed directly into the Laffey. 4 bombs exploded on her deck. The deck guns were twisted metal. The superstructure looked like a furnace. But still, the ship fought back. The crew downed 11 enemy aircraft before the last attack ended. The sea around them was on fire, covered in burning oil, debris, and bodies. The ship's hull was full of holes. The deck was littered with twisted steel. And yet, the Laffey refused to die. Her pumps kept working, her engines still turning. Men who could barely stand kept manning their stations, refusing to surrender to the sea. For more than 80 minutes, the battle raged. It was one of the most intense kamikaze attacks in the entire war. When it was finally over, 32 sailors were dead and 71 wounded, but the ship was still there, scarred, broken, and smoking, yet alive. Hours later, when rescue vessels arrived, they couldn't believe what they saw. A destroyer that had taken the punishment of a battleship and survived. The Japanese pilots had thrown everything at her, but she was still afloat. The crew had done the impossible. After the war, the USS Laffey was repaired and served for many more years. Today, she rests peacefully at Patriots Point, South Carolina, as a floating museum. Visitors who walk her decks can still see the scars, the dents from machine gun fire, the holes patched with steel, and the places where flames once raged. Each mark tells a story, not of destruction, but of resilience, of men who refused to give up, even when death surrounded them. When you stand on her deck, you can almost hear the echoes, the roar of engines, the crash of waves, and the defiant cry of a crew that would not surrender. Because sometimes heroism isn't about winning, it's about enduring. It's about saying not today to the darkness and holding the line until the storm passes. The USS Laffey will always be remembered, not as a ghost, but as a symbol of courage, sacrifice, and unbreakable spirit. The ghost ship of Okinawa, still afloat in memory,